Okay, my dear children, now this is the 3D simulation of our urinary system. So within the urinary system, first of all, you can observe the pair of kidneys at the either sides like this, right? Then after that, here you can clearly observe the ureters which are coming towards the bladder from the kidneys, right? So I'm going to zoom in. See the ureters. These are the ureters. And my dear children, now I'm going to remove these extra parts so that you can see these structures very clearly. You can see the bladder. I'm going to remove these extra parts in here, right? Okay. Right, my dear children, now you can see the bladder in here. See, now you can clearly observe the urinary bladder and the urethra. So let's remove the other parts as well. Right. So now in here, this figure, you can observe the urethra and this is the urethra and the urinary bladder, right? So you can get a more clearer look at the urinary bladder plus the urethra in here, right, my dear children? So here, this is the structure that we can observe in the urinary system, right? See the two kidneys. These are the ones, or these are the ones which are referred as the ureters. So I'll remove these stuff, right? We'll remove these muscles in order to get a more good look at the components. Right. See, my dear children, now here you can observe a good look. See, now you can get a good look about the location and the parts contained in the urinary system of a human being. See, the two kidneys, then the bladder. Right, so this is the maximum which I can remove. So now you can see very clearly. Right, now you can see very clearly. So this is the right, we'll remove these ones as well. Right. So now you can clearly observe the structure of the kidney and the urinary system. See, right, you can see it very clearly here. So here you can observe the ureters. This is the bladder and the urethra. So here it's clearly the two kidneys are located at the either sides of the spinal and the spinal cord, right? See, spinal, at the either side of the spinal you can observe the two kidneys which are in the bean shape, right? So my dear children, this is the structure of the human urinary system, right? So once again we'll head on to our classroom and let's identify the components, right? Let's head on to the classroom and let's identify the components once again by using a diagram, by using a figure, right? So these are the components in a 3D structure. So let's head on to the classroom and once again we'll identify the components contained in the urinary system, right? Okay, my dear children, now in this figure or in this 3D structure, you can observe the interior structure of a kidney. Here I have used a simple structure like this so that you can see whole urinary system with the renal artery and the renal veins and so on with the other facts as well. So to include all the facts, I have used this figure. I'm going to show you another different figure. So here you can observe the bladder. These are the ureters which are coming from the kidneys. Now I'm going to enlarge this one. Right. So when I'm going to enlarge this figure, you can see clearly within this figure. Let's remove these things. Right. So here now you can clearly observe, my dear children, the structure, the inner structure of the kidney. See. So you can observe the renal pyramids very clearly in these areas. See. And the pelvic region and the ureter which is starting. Right. And you can observe the main valves which is which the blood is getting produced. This red color one is the one which is going to produce the blood inside to the kidney. This is referred as the renal artery, and this blue color one is the renal vein. Renal vein is the one which is going to reabsorb the filtration, right? Filtered, not the filtered one, the remainder. After the filtration process, the blood is getting remained within the kidney, no? So those things are being reabsorbed by the renal vein and supplied to the blood once again. So my dear children, here you can observe the renal vein. This is the renal vein, this one, right? The renal vein. So see how it runs through the kidney. And this one is referred as the renal artery. That's the one which is going to supply blood into the body, into the kidney. So the renal artery, see how it runs. So this is the renal vein. This one is the renal vein. So here you can observe renal pyramids, and this is the pelvic region, right? So here, this is the pelvic region. This one, this white color area, that is the pelvic region. These smaller boxes are the right? These smaller boxes, these ones are the renal pyramids. So here you can get a very fine, better look at the structure of the kidney, right? So my dear children, this pelvic region once again is connected to the ureter. This tube is the ureter. So I can minimize this figure and I can show you how does the ureter is going to run towards the urinary bladder. See, it's running towards the urinary bladder. See, now it's at the bladder, that light blue color one. This is the, right, this one is the, see, this one, that is the ureter. It's running towards the bladder over here, right? So this is the inner structure of the kidney and the appearance, the outer appearance of a human kidney. So I'm going to use a different color figure once again to show the cross section of a kidney, right? So this is much more better image rather than the previous one. So here you can observe the pelvic region, renal pyramids, medulla and the cortex very clearly, right? See, right my dear children? So here, so this is our urinary system then, right? So this is the bladder and this part is the urethra and these are the ureters, right? So this is how our, right, this is how our urinary system looks like. See, you can observe the kidneys which are in bean shape. See, can see it very clearly. Okay, right then. So once again, I'm going to take the structure over to here and I'm going to show you the interior part, right? Let's enlarge and see the interior part. Yes, now let's enlarge the figure so that you can get a better look. Right, so this is the interior structure of the kidney once again, right? So you can clearly observe the cortex and the medulla parts, okay? Right. So my dear children, we identified the interior structure and there are special components. So let's head on to the classroom once again and we'll discuss what are the things contained within these each of the parts. Okay my dear children, now here you can observe within my background, you can observe that 3D image of the central nervous system. So now first I'm going to use this thing and I'm going to show that the structure. Let's enlarge it somewhat. So okay, now here within this structure, so this is the part which is referred as the skull. So here you can observe this is the skull. It's a bony material, my dear children, made up with a bony material. See, skull, right? So skull is like this, right? This is the skull. Okay, now I'm going to select the skull. You can see that the brain is located within the skull. So I'm going to select these skull parts and I'm going to fade these things so that you can see the brain quite well, like this, right? So children, now you could observe the three main categories contained in the brain, right? So this part of the brain, see, this part of the brain is referred as the cerebrum. So this is the part of the brain which referred as the cerebrum. So here you can observe cerebrum has a convoluted tissues. Cerebrum has convoluted tissues. See, convoluted means these things are getting folded each other, right? See, these things are convoluted each other, fold one another, right? Cerebrum. So this area, this region, the larger region of the brain is considered as the cerebrum. Cerebrum, right? So this is the cerebrum, right? Cerebrum. Okay. So after that, this underneath the cerebrum, you can observe the second main important part of the brain just beneath the cerebrum, under the starting position. Now here, when in these areas you can observe the second main part of the brain. This is called as the cerebellum. This region, this area is referred as the cerebellum. Cerebellum, right? So cerebellum of the brain, right? Cerebellum. These areas are the cerebellum. See, cerebellum, the second most important area of the brain. Then finally you could observe, right? You could observe the spinal cord, right? So I'm going to remove these excess parts. You can see that it is getting well protected, right? It's getting well protected. See, this is the bone structure. So these are the ones which are referred as the spines. See, these are the spines. So spines are spine is protecting the spinal cord well. So I'm going to remove now. I'm going to remove all of these spines one by one each, so that you can see the spinal cord well. Right? See how many spines are there? There are several spines. You can see them. Okay. Now I'm going to select these parts. Right, and I'm going to hide them as well. See, So I'm going to select all of these spines and their components so that I could show you the spinal cord. Okay. Right, now this is the spinal cord, my dear children. When you remove the spines, you can see the spinal cord. See, this is the spinal cord. So, let's remove these parts as well. See, this is the spinal cord. Right, so you can see the spinal cord in here. This part is referred as the spinal cord, my dear children. So, see, to get the spinal cord, see how much of layers did I remove from this figure. So we removed several areas, several layers. That's how the that's how it's been protected well within our body. So because it is the central nervous system within the body. So that's why it is being well protected. So my dear children, this is referred as the spinal cord. Right, spinal cord. Okay. So just the starting position of the spinal cord, this starting position is the area which is referred as the medulla, right? So the starting position of the spinal cord is referred as the medulla, right? This starting position, this portion is the one which is referred as the medulla. So here now you can observe the three main most important parts of the brain and the spinal cord. So here in the brain there are three categories: the convoluted area, the largest area of the brain which is referred as the cerebrum. Then my dear children, this one, this here, see this area which is in somewhat red color and that has fibers. So this area is referred as the cerebellum, and the area which is going to start the right spinal cord is referred as the medulla, right? So these are the three areas in our brain, right? In our brain we could observe these three areas. So now I'm going to show you the spinal cord. So this is the spinal cord which runs through the spine or the vertebral column, through the vertebral column. So this is the spinal cord then. So spinal cord is connected directly to the brain, as you can see in the simulation, right? So this is the structure and the components that we can identify in our brain, my dear children, right? So once again we'll head on to the classroom and we'll identify their functions and the specialties in each of these parts. Okay, my dear children, now here you can observe a figure, right? A 3D figure that shows the nerves in our body. Actually, in the half of the body you can observe the nerves in this figure. So I'm going to zoom in this thing and let's see. Right, so this is how the nerves runs through our body. See, nerves are running here and there all around our body. You can see it in here more clearly, right? See, so the nerves which are arising at here are the cranial nerves, and once again, see, the nerves which are connected in here, which runs through the brain, are the cranial nerves, and these are the nerves which are running from the spinal cord. So these nerves are referred as the spinal nerves, my dear children. So here you could observe this one, the spinal cord. So the nerves, these nerves are rising from the spinal cord, right? So these nerves are the ones which are referred as the spinal nerves, right? Spinal nerves. Here you can observe the spinal nerves. See these nerves, right? So the cranial nerves can be observed if you check the system like this. So these are the cranial nerves that runs through the brain. Okay, so here there are some cranial nerves which connects our eye as well. So these are the peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves plus the spinal nerves contained in our system, right? Nervous system. So here you can observe more clearer image when you are looking at the simulation, 3D simulation of the human body anatomy. Right then, so I kept the organs as well so that you can get a good idea about the parts. So here these are the nerves, right? These are the nerves that can be identified. Spinal cord, spinal nerves, these ones, spinal nerves. So the brain and these areas you can observe cranial nerves. Right, my dear children. Now these are the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves that we can observe, right? Okay then. So right, so here you can observe a good view, the front view, right? Right, so cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, my dear children. So once again, let's head on to the classroom and let's see what are the other things contained in the lesson part.